Of the principal farm operators in the United States, the 2012 Census of Agriculture showed there were nearly 3 times as many farmers aged 65 and above as there were aged 44 and below. A 2014 study from the U.S. Department of Agriculture showed the average age of the principal landlord in the country was nearly 67 years old, and 45% of those landlords had never farmed. U.S. Deputy Secretary of Agriculture Michael Scuse says the challenge of acquiring and retaining young farmers isn't unique to any area of the country. Scuse spoke on the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's East Campus in September for one of the USDA's forums on land tenure and the next generation of agriculture. We spoke with him before the event.
Well, we're doing a total of 6 beginning farmers and land use forums across the United States. We started 2 weeks ago in Arkansas with the very first one, and here at the university is our second one. We've got a great panel lined up for the forum, so we're excited. I think it's going to be well attended. I'm thinking we're going to get some really good information from the panelists and from those participating today on the land use forums. We need to look at that next generation.
Tell me about some of the trends of the average American farmer.
Well, when you look at the average age of the American farmer, they're 58 years old. And our farmers and ranchers are going to continue to age. We need to find ways to get that next generation involved in agriculture. And when you look at land use, 10% of the land in the United States is going to change hands over the next 5 years. How do we go about getting that land into those young and beginning farmers? What can we do to help? What needs to be done to make sure that we've got that next generation involved in agriculture?
What role is that transition playing into trying to get some of those younger farmers back?
Well, you know, at USDA, we've looked at different things throughout the administration of President Obama with Secretary Vilsack's leadership to look at ways that we can make it easier for young and beginning farmers to get involved. If you look at what NRCS did with the high tunnel houses and how many of those that we've put up to help people get started in agriculture. We've made changes to our crop insurance program as well to help young and beginning farmers be able to afford to get into the program and be able to get their yields adjusted to a place where crop insurance works for them. If you look at our loan portfolio at the Farm Service Agency, and if you're looking at now 2/3 of our loans now go to disadvantaged as well as young and beginning farmers. So there's an effort in every area of USDA to help that next generation. So what else? So the reason we're doing these, what else can be done? How else can we help, or what can the private sector do, or government or state governments do to help get that next generation involved?
I'm wondering, a lot of the landowners that we have across the country right now, there's a good portion that don't farm, have never farmed. Are we seeing that land is more of an investment asset rather than part of a family-owned business or part of the farm anymore?
Well, definitely. And when you look at the investor, they're absentee investors. They don't know or understand agriculture and what it takes to get involved in agriculture today. So there's a huge difference with the investor coming in and owning the land versus somebody who currently owns the land who may be retired, who fully understands agriculture and what it takes to be successful. So there is a disconnect there. So how do we change that?
We see the problem, or at least the challenge here in Nebraska with that. How similar is the challenge in rural areas across the country? It's
the same across all of the United States. I don't care if you're farming in the Northeast, you know, with the dairy operations, or if you're in fruit and vegetables in the Southeast, or grain production and cattle here in the Midwest, and fruit and vegetables in the West Coast. It's the same across the whole country. We have an issue on getting that land into the hands of that next generation and getting them involved in agriculture. So, you know, again, looking at ways that we can make that happen.
Is part of that also trying to revitalize those smaller communities, those really rural areas of the country?
Well, definitely. I mean, if you go back and you look at what happened to the United States in 2008, 2009 with the decline of our economy, if you look at the areas that went through that period of time and came out in the best shape, it was our small rural communities. And it was because of the strength of agriculture. We had, good prices. Everything was going in the right direction, and that helped our rural communities weather that financial storm better than our larger communities across the United States. So, agriculture, especially getting that next generation involved, is very important to keep those small rural communities, help them survive and keep them thriving. I, as a farmer myself and from a small community in Delaware, I like to think that those small communities are the backbone of our country.
What advice would you give to a young farmer who's trying to start out and at this point needs a lot of collateral to try to get in the game?
Well, there's a couple things. Number one, they can visit their local Farm Service Agency office. Look at the loan programs that we have available through the Farm Service Agency and take advantage of those. The next thing, that the advice that I would give them, go talk to somebody who's in the business today. Go talk to that older farmer or rancher. Listen to them. There's a lot of knowledge out there, a wealth of information to be had by going and visiting with those farmers and ranchers in your community, asking them about the upsides and the downsides to agriculture and what you need to do to survive. They're there today because they found a way to survive. So you can go get a lot of information for those producers that are still in the business today.
You can find more USDA resources about young and beginning farmers through a link on the Market Journal website.